Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Prime. Over the next 1 hour, we bring you all the stories and updates from India and around the world. We'll update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports, and we'll get you some interesting stories that are making the headline. I'm Amritpal Singh. First up, the big news of this hour. In a huge success for security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, 7 terrorists eliminated in 2 separate encounters in Shopian and Avantipura in the Kashmir Valley. Cache of arms recovered. In view of rising cases of COVID-19, Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan chairs a meeting of the group of ministers to review the situation and the vaccination drive. Over 9.4 crore vaccine shots administered across the country so far. Night curfew and restrictions in several states and cities across the country to curb COVID surge. Beginning today, Madhya Pradesh imposes lockdown till 6 a.m. On Monday in many cities. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister reviews the vaccination drive in his state. Prime Minister Modi releases the Hindi version of the book Odisha Itihas by Dr. Hare Krishna Mahatab. Prime Minister underlines the importance of spreading awareness about diversity-filled history of the state across the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold a virtual summit with the Prime Minister of Netherlands, Mark Rutte. The summit follows the recent victory of PM Rutte in the parliamentary elections. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh holds bilateral talks with his Kazakhstan counterpart in New Delhi. The 11th round of India-China talks on at Chushul in eastern Ladakh. Corps commander level talks on at the Indian side. And West Bengal goes to polls for 44 seats in the 4th phase of elections tomorrow. The Election Commission issues notices to BJP's Suvendu Adhikari and Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee for objectionable speeches. So those were the headlines we were tracking at this hour, and now let's begin with the big news of this hour. Well, in a major success for security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, 7 terrorists were gunned down by the security forces in different encounters in South Kashmir within 24 hours. Both the ongoing the operations at Shopian and Tral are over. 7 AK-47 and 2 pistols were recovered. Both the terrorist groups are from the same outfit. In the first encounter, 5 terrorists were killed in Shopian town after a joint team of the Jammu and Kashmir police and security forces launched a search operation on Thursday on the basis of specific input about the presence of terrorists in the town. In another encounter, 2 terrorists of the terror outfit Ansar Ghazwat ul Hind, Chief Imtiaz Shah, were killed at Naubagh Tral in Avantipura area of South Kashmir's Pulwama district this morning. With these 2 encounters and the elimination of 7 terrorists, and the terrorist group Ansar Ghazwat ul Hind are fully wiped out once again. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan chaired the 24th high-level group of ministers meeting to review the COVID-19 situation and vaccination drive in the country. Hailing the vaccination drive in the country, the Health Minister said more than 9 crore 43 lakh vaccine doses have been administered so far, while India recorded a single-day vaccination high of 43 lakh doses in the last week, marking it to be the highest in the world.
9 crore 43 lakh 34,262 doses have been given to people in India of the various priority groups. and in the last 24 hours itself, we have given 36,91,511 doses. This figure, in fact, in last week we one day even gave 43 lakh doses. This is probably the highest given anywhere in the whole world.
And the health minister also lauded the country's healthcare system as India stands lowest in terms of fertility rate in the world, which is at 1.28%.
Right now, 0.46% of the active critical patients, they are on ventilator, 2.31% are in ICUs, and 4.51% are on oxygen supported beds. In the last 24 hours, we have lost 780 patients in the country. Our fatality rate, fortunately, continues to actually come down, and right now it is 1.28%.
On a positive note, the health minister also brought to notice about the districts reporting zero new infections in recent days. He said at least 149 districts across the country have not reported a single new case in the last 7 days.
In the whole country, right now, if we have to look at some of the positive sides, there are 149 districts where we have not seen a case of COVID in the last 7 days. 8 districts have not seen a case in the last 14 days. 3 districts have not seen a case in last 21 days. And again, 63 districts have not seen a case in last 28 days.
The Union Health Minister said that India has so far exported 6.45 crore doses of COVID vaccines to 84 countries.
Till now, we have exported 6.45 crore doses to 84 countries, and this had happened, in fact, till fortnight back, which includes 1.05 crores to 44 countries as grants, 3.58 crores to 25 countries as commercial contracts, and 1.82 crores to 39 countries through the COVAX facility of WHO.
The health minister also informed the group of ministers that the COVID facilities are being well maintained and that there are 15,440 dedicated healthcare facilities in the country.
A lot of people talk about these hospital beds and the isolation beds, ICU and oxygen supported facilities. So let me assure the GOM that all our facilities are quite well maintained. Those even where, because of the cases which were declining, they had changed them to normal activities. They are now again being revamped, and we right now have 15,440 dedicated healthcare facilities for COVID, which have more than 18 lakh 2,000 beds in the whole country, along with 12,673 quarantine centers.
In India's landmark achievement in its fight against COVID-19, the cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has crossed 9.43 crore today. A total of 9 crore 43 lakh 34,262 vaccine doses have been administered through 14 lakh 28,500 sessions. Over 89.74 lakh healthcare workers have taken the first dose. Over 54.49 lakh healthcare workers have taken the second dose. Over 36 lakh vaccine doses were administered in the last 24 hours. 8 states account for 60% of the total doses given so far in the country. In terms of number of daily doses administered globally, India continues to remain at the top with an average of 37,94,328 doses administered per day. India's daily new cases continue to rise. 1,31,968 new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. 10 states including Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and Rajasthan have shown a rise in the COVID daily new cases. 83.29% of the new cases are reported from these 10 states. Maharashtra has reported the highest daily new cases at 56,286. It's followed by Chhattisgarh with 10,652, while Uttar Pradesh reported 8,474 new cases. The cumulative recoveries stand in the country at 1,19,13,292. The national recovery rate is 91.22%. India's total active caseload has reached 9,79,608. It now comprises 7.5% of the country's total positive cases. 12 states and union territories have not reported any COVID-19 deaths in the last 24 hours. So the active caseload is at about 7.5%. 12 states and UTs have not reported any COVID-19 deaths in the last 24 hours. This is what the statistics show. Yet, there are cases rising. There is a surge happening. This is the second wave. We need to be really careful. Go in for vaccination if you are eligible. If you are above 45, you're eligible for vaccines. Go get yourself vaccinated, and if even after getting vaccinated, do not throw caution to the winds yet. Wear a mask, follow the COVID protocols, maintain social distancing, try and avoid going out, try and avoid going to crowded places like markets or fairs, etc. And go if you must, but then maintain social distancing. Remember, that is the only way we have for the moment to fight this menace, to fight this pandemic. If we all take that step at an individual level, we can overcome this crisis. And as many as 25,40,41,584 samples have been tested for COVID-19, according to the Department of Health Research, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. On the 8th of April, 13,64,205 samples were tested for COVID-19. So there is aggressive testing going on, testing, tracing, tracking, COVID-appropriate behavior and vaccination. Those are the 5 steps that the Prime Minister had outlined when he put out his vision, or the country's vision, to fight the pandemic. So even if you have any sort of symptoms or suspect that you might have come into contact with somebody with known infection, go in for testing. It's better to get tested and rule it out. And if you happen to be unfortunate to have contracted it, then quarantine yourself and do not spread it to others. Remember, it is by the end of it a flu, but you have to take care of it that you do not spread it to other people and do not get it yourself in the first place. And as I was saying, India has entered into the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, and a number of states in the country have been reporting more number of fresh cases every day. To restrict the spread of the virus, the centre and the state governments have been urging people to maintain all necessary protocols. Several states have been taking stringent measures to control the steep surge in cases. Madhya Pradesh has imposed a 12-hour lockdown from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in all areas of the state. Containment areas are being made in big cities to keep a check on the rising number of COVID cases. The state has also been working to have 1 lakh COVID dedicated beds at hospitals and care centers. The Madhya Pradesh government has suspended bus operations with neighbouring state Chhattisgarh till the 15th of April. And Maharashtra has been reporting the maximum number of COVID cases in the country. Mumbai, Nagpur and a few other places like Pune in the state have been registering large number of new daily cases. High-level teams constituted by the central government are visiting several districts in the state to review the COVID situation. Meanwhile, Uttar Pradesh government has decided to impose night curfew in Lucknow, Kanpur, Varanasi, Prayagraj, Noida and Ghaziabad. Gautam Budh Nagar district officials have announced that the curfew will be in place between 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. till the 17th of April. However, the movement of essential goods and services will be exempt from the order. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is scheduled to visit Prayagraj and Varanasi to take stock of the COVID-19 situation in these places. Chhattisgarh has also been reporting more new cases. To curtail the spread of the virus, the state government has imposed complete lockdown in Raipur district. The lockdown will be in place till the 19th of April. During this time, the district borders will be sealed and people will be required to have an e-pass to enter districts. Only petrol pump, medicine shops, LPG agencies will be allowed to operate during the lockdown in the state. And in Karnataka, night curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. has been imposed in Bengaluru, Mysuru, Mangalore and a few other cities in the state from the 10th of April to the 20th of April. During curfew, only essential services will be allowed to operate. And in Jammu and Kashmir, with the rise in COVID cases, authorities have imposed curfew in the Jammu district in 8 districts, including Udhampur, Kathua, Srinagar, Barapulla, Anantnag and Kupwara. The night curfew will be in place from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. In Odisha, to restrict the spread of the COVID cases, the Odisha government has decided to close regular classes for students from class 9 to 11. Classes of students for standard 10 and grade 12 will be on till the 25th of April. And the pandemic situation in the national capital, Delhi, is also grim. All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi has decided to temporarily close down routine walk-in OPD patient registrations. Only patients with appointments will be allowed for a checkup. Delhi has reported nearly 7,000 cases of COVID-19. In the Gangaram Hospital in the national capital, 37 doctors have tested positive for the virus. The Delhi government has imposed night curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. till the 30th of April. Uttarakhand too has been reporting new cases of COVID-19. As many as 89 students of IIT Roorkee have tested positive for the deadly virus, after which 5 hostels of the institute have been sealed. And for more on that, I'm joined by my colleague Shishir Selar, who joins us from Mumbai. Shishir, give us a sense of, first, we know that their cases are rising. Also, I'm joined by Aditya from Bhopal, but Shishir, to you first. Cases are rising in Maharashtra. It remains the state with the highest number of daily new cases being reported. Give us a sense of what the measures the government is taking to control the pandemic.
Well, absolutely, Amrutpal, you rightly said, here in Maharashtra, situation is quite grim here. As far as numbers are concerned, Maharashtra is registering the maximum number, compared to other states in the country. On an average, daily, Maharashtra is registering almost 50 to 57,000 cases each day. And that's the reason providing facilities to all these patients is quite a tough task ahead of the Maharashtra government here. Well, currently, Maharashtra government is focusing on the vaccination as well, because right now what the government said is that they only have the vaccination left for next 2 days, and that's the reason they have also requested center to send more vaccines to the state. Currently, the state government is administering almost 3 to 4 lakh vaccine each day, and that's a quite high numbers that compared to other states also, and that's the reason the Maharashtra required more numbers of vaccines. Obviously, on the one hand, the cases are rising, and that's the reason the government is focusing on the vaccination drive. Well, talking about the lockdown and the mini lockdown situation in the state, Maharashtra have already announced Section 144 across Maharashtra during daytime. and during evening, night curfew has already been imposed, especially during weekend, which starts from Friday 6 p.m. till Monday 7 a.m. A mini lockdown has also been imposed till 30th of April, and that's across Maharashtra. You can see the situation. Only the essential supplies and essential shops and the services are operational during this entire time here. And that's the reason, as I told you, the Maharashtra government is taking various steps to contain the spread of coronavirus in the state. Well, apart from that, the testing and tracing have also been increased here. On average, nearly 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh people have been tested regularly. The tracing is also going on a full speed here. But currently, the major, the alarming situation ahead of the Maharashtra government is to provide vaccination. As I told you, that Maharashtra currently has only a couple of days of stock of vaccines, and that's what the Health Minister Rajesh Tope even yesterday said, and he conveyed this message to the Centre Minister also. Well, the Centre have already assured him that Maharashtra will get the required doses as well. But currently, if you look at the situation, there are some of the places, especially some of the districts in Maharashtra, where the vaccination has been stopped completely because these districts have been running out of vaccines. The same situation has been seen in the tier 1 cities in Maharashtra. For example, Pune, Nagpur, Nasik. These are the places, at some of the places, vaccination centers. The vaccine has been finished, and that's the reason the people have been told to come later on, or probably they can log into COVID and take the vaccines whenever it's available. Meanwhile, the center has already allotted 17 lakh doses to Maharashtra, and these doses Maharashtra will get by 15th April. But till 15th April, Maharashtra, as a state health minister said, that have to bear the problem, especially the vaccination drive. And that's the reason, as I told you, at some of the locations, the vaccination may get halted here. Only the major centers in Maharashtra will get the vaccines. Currently, what the stocks is available, the Maharashtra government is saying. The next important aspect currently Maharashtra's government is focusing on is the oxygen and the ventilators here. Obviously, currently Maharashtra has sufficient number of oxygen and the ventilators, but if these numbers keep on rising, like we have seen 50,000 every day, then obviously going forward in just few days, Maharashtra may see the shortage of oxygen and ventilators. And that's the reason the state government have requested the centers also to look into this matter and provide ventilators and oxygen as early as possible. The state government is also requesting the neighboring states so that they can supply the oxygen to the people here, and the ventilators and the beds also. So situation, if you look at the situation is quite grim, and if the numbers are increased further, there will probably a quite alarming situation in the state.
Okay, Shishir, give us a sense of this surge of numbers. Where is it coming from? Is it coming primarily from big cities like Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, or is it also coming from the rural hinterland?
Well, Amrit, in the first wave, we have seen here that the numbers were coming from the tier 1 cities like Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, Nasik. These are the areas where people were seeing, government was seeing the maximum numbers. But now during the second wave that we have seen here now, even the rural areas, the areas which were untouched earlier, have also seen the rise in numbers. And that's the reason, if you look at the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, if you look at the western Maharashtra regions also, these are the regions also witnessed maximum numbers. Well, the second wave, if you could say, the second wave probably started from this region, the rural area. And that's the reason right now, if you look at the tier 2, tier 1 cities, or even for the rural areas, the numbers are increasing day by day here. Obviously, like Mumbai, we're witnessing almost 9,000 cases every day, 8 to 9,000 cases every day. Pune is also registering almost 5 to 6,000 cases every day. The same situation we are seeing in Nasik and Nagpur region also. So obviously not just confined to the city areas now, but it's also spread to the rural areas. And that's quite a worrisome factor for the government here, because they also have to focus the health infrastructure into the rural areas along with the city areas.
Okay. Shishir, I'll request you to stay on. Let me bring in Aditya, who joins us from Bhopal. Aditya, your state is not doing very well either. The government has imposed a lockdown till the weekend lockdown till 6 a.m. On Monday, beginning today. They've shut down borders with Chhattisgarh. Give us a sense of what the situation in Madhya Pradesh is like.
Yes, Amritpal, as we know that the alarming situation is also in Madhya Pradesh. Yesterday, more than 2,300 new cases recorded in Madhya Pradesh, and 27 people have died due to coronavirus. That's why the state government you know, the state government imposing will be implemented the lockdown in urban areas of the state from today 6 till morning till Monday morning 6 a.m. In especially in Bhopal, Indore, Gwalior, Jabalpur, Parwani, Shahjahanpur, Chhindwara. These places are becoming, you know, the hotspot in state. The state government also trying to increase the you know, the bad infrastructure in Madhya Pradesh. That's why the CM Shivraj Singh Chauhan also gave offer to the private hospital owners to make you know, the hospital infrastructure, medical infrastructure in government buildings also, those buildings which are you know, the empty, and they are having they have you know, the basic infrastructure. So he's talking to the private hospital owners to make a basic infrastructure, to make to increase the beds in that premises. Shivraj Singh Chauhan also talked to the Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan and Piyush Goyal for supplying the oxygen in the states. That's why after the conversation of with the Union Minister, Madhya Pradesh get the oxygen from Bhilai. But we can say in lockdown in urban areas which will be implemented from today, only the basic, only essential services
will be allowed. Okay. Okay, Aditya and Shishir, at the risk of inviting the wrath of my producer, she tells me I'm completely out of time. Give me one-line answers. Are people maintaining social distancing, observing COVID protocols, wearing masks in your states? Shishir, you, and then Aditya.
Well, absolutely, Amrit. The question is, you know, the answer is quite simple here. If people would have followed the COVID protocols here and the SOPs that set by the government and ICMR, the number would have not rise here. The numbers that you have seen here is obviously negligence of people also not maintaining social distancing, maybe not wearing masks, and that's the reason these numbers in Maharashtra are rising. We also request people we also tell people that they should follow these COVID numbers, otherwise Maharashtra will register maximum numbers. Now it's completely in the hands of the people to contain this number, and that's the reason mask and social distancing is must.
All right, Aditya, very quickly.
Yes, Amrit, as we know, there is no option in front of the people of Madhya Pradesh. Only the wearing masks.
Are they wearing masks? Are they wearing masks?
Yes.
They are. All right. Both Shishir and Aditya, many thanks for joining us for the moment and giving us that update. And let's now move on to our developing story of the day. Well, the Indians and the Chinese are talking yet again. They are holding the 11th round of talks, military talks at Chushul in eastern Ladakh, which is on the Indian side. Corps commanders of the regions, both countries, are discussing disengagement from the remaining friction points in Ladakh. The Indian delegation is led by Fire and Fury Corps Commander General P.J.K. Menon. The Corps Commander level talks focusing on friction points like Gogra, Hot Springs, Depsang Plains in Ladakh. The southern banks and finger areas of Pangong So have seen smooth completion of the disengagement after 10 rounds of talks. On Thursday, China had said there will be no delay in talks with India to discuss disengagement of troops from eastern Ladakh. And for more on that, I am joined by my colleague Ramesh Chandra, who joins us from Leh. Ramesh, you've reported on the previous round of talks that took place between the two sides. As the two corps commanders meet today, what can we expect? First of all, can we expect something concrete by the evening or late night or till whenever the talks go on?
Yeah, Amrit, now if you look at this is almost 1 year now we are in face of with China at Eastern Ladakh region, and on an average if we look at the talks that have taken place now, it is today is an 11th round of talks between corps commanders, and there are number of brigadier level talks also. These are all definitely yielding results, and we could see after 10th rounds of talks between these two corps commanders, we could see the disengagement on finger areas of Pangong So. And last month, when we have visited for some other developmental story, we could see the dismantlement of hutments there by earlier erected by PLA. And now there are certain issues which are not just the security angle, but on the social aspect also, because this is now the grazing period for local Ladakhis. This is also in consideration while uh, both army commanders are on table to discuss disengagement. This is one thing. The other thing is Gogra and Hot Spring, which is the under Depsang Valley, Depsang Plain, which is also a key issue that is coming today for discussion. And definitely, yes, Gogra and Hot Springs are main issues that India will insist for disengagement, and later on, I think the Depsang Plains as well. There are certain other issues that go beyond 11th round as of now. And yeah, definitely this round also will go till midnight because definitely
Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
Tricky situation, and yeah, as I told you, it is all imaginary line, and you climb, I climb, sort of thing. So these are all things that have to be projected and settled with evidences how this is our land and why you should go back to your normal position to maintain the peace and tranquility in Eastern Ladakh region.
Ramesh, very quickly give us a sense of what we saw at the Pangong Lake. There was an eyeball to eyeball situation. Is that sort of a situation that exists in, say, Hot Springs or Gogra, even at the Depsang Plains?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, both armies are slightly at close proximity in Gogra and Hot Spring and Depsang Plains as well. That is the main reason we insist for disengagement, because the more you go closer and things go,
the possibility of a clash is more. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And this is now 1 year we are in face off, so this has to be settled at the earliest before summer sets in here in Ladakh region.
All right. Ramesh, you keep a track of that. We'll keep coming back to you through the day. Many thanks for joining us for the moment. Thank you. And there is another defense mechanism that is on, but that's on at in the national capital. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh is holding bilateral talks with the Defense Minister of Kazakhstan, who's visiting India, Lieutenant General Nurlan Ermekbayev. Both sides are talking in Delhi. Both sides are reviewed the full range of bilateral defense ties and deliberated on ways to enhance cooperation in the fields pertaining to security and defense. Kazakh Defense Minister is on a 4-day visit to India starting the 7th of April. He'll be here till the 10th. The two ministers had last met in Moscow on the 5th of September last year on the sidelines of the SCO, of which both India and Kazakhstan are members. So they had met on the sidelines of the SCO Defense Ministers meeting. And earlier this morning, Defense Minister of Kazakhstan, General Ermekbayev, was accorded a Tri-Service Guard of Honor at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh was also present. And the Defense Minister of Kazakhstan also visited the National War Memorial in Delhi. He laid a wreath and paid homage at the War Memorial. And my colleague Nandita Dagar joins us more on these talks. Nandita, tell us what is transpiring at these talks. What specifics could the two sides discuss? What could we see as an outcome?
Yes, Amrit, the Kazakhstani Defense Minister, this is his second meeting with our Defense Minister in just about 7 to 8 months, and this is his second meeting because they both met on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization mechanism last year in September. Now, as you know, that Kazakhstan is part of Central Asia where the new great game is playing out. Just like Afghanistan in the 19th century, where imperial powers like Britain and the imperial Russia were vying for influence, in the same way, Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, these are the battleground of a new great game, and we, that is India and Kazakhstan, have a lot of defense exchanges together. We carry out a military exercise called Kazind together, and the last edition of this exercise was held in 2019. So yes, you asked about what would have transpired. The meeting, as you said, is already over with our defense minister in Vigyan Bhavan. He's already been accorded the Guard of Honor, and before that he was also laid wreaths at our war memorial and paid homage to our martyrs. Clearly, we are partners with Kazakhstan. That has been emphasized by the visiting defense minister. The agenda of these talks is to enhance bilateral ties through defense exchanges, and that is what our defense minister and the general, the Kazakh general, must have talked about. Obviously, we will get a readout of what had transpired, the broad strokes of that later on. Clearly, we are trying to build defense exchanges and military training with them. Their personnel get trained in a lot of our academies, and so they visit us on several capacity building tours which we give to them, and that is something that would have been on the agenda. India is a clear partner because Kazakhstan is a part of the USSR, the Soviet Russia, of which India was a very, very close ally during the Soviet days, and even now that legacy has carried forward. Prime Minister Modi himself has visited Kazakhstan. Also, the visiting defense minister has already visited Jodhpur and Jaisalmer. He's in fact been given a tour of Longewala, the site of the Battle of Longewala in the 1971 war, Amrit, which you know we are celebrating 50 years, or the Swarnim Vijay Verse of the 1971 war victory over Pakistan and liberation of Bangladesh. He was given a guided tour of that on Wednesday. He met and interacted with the BSF personnel. Clearly, we are building a close partnership in counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency environments, working together under the UN umbrella. These are the kind of scenarios that we have exercised with them in the past. And that is something that Uzbekistan is looking from us. Amrit?
All right, Nandita, we leave it there. Many thanks for joining us for the moment. Thank you. And moving on to our National Prime segment now. India and the Netherlands will hold a high-level virtual summit today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold a virtual summit with the Prime Minister of Netherlands, Mark Rutte, today. During the summit, the two leaders will discuss in detail the bilateral cooperation and look at new ways of strengthening the relationship. They will also exchange views on the regional and global issues of mutual interest. The forthcoming summit follows the recent victory of Prime Minister Rutte in the parliamentary elections and will sustain the momentum in the bilateral relationship provided by regular high-level interactions. India and the Netherlands share cordial and friendly relations underpinned by shared values of democracy, rule of law and freedom. Netherlands is home to the largest Indian diaspora in continental Europe. Both countries have wide-ranging cooperation, including in areas of water management, agriculture and food processing, healthcare, smart cities and urban mobility, science and technology, renewable energy and space. The two countries also share a robust economic partnership, with the Netherlands being the third largest investor in India. There are over 200 Dutch companies present in India, with a similar presence of Indian businesses in the Netherlands. And Prime Minister Modi today released the Hindi translation of the book Odisha Itihas, written by Utkal Keshri Hare Krishna Mahatab in New Delhi. The event was organized by Hare Krishna Mahatab Foundation. The book is available in Odia and English language and has been translated into Hindi by Shankar Lal Purohit. Dr. Mahatab wrote the book Odisha Itihas in Ahmednagar Fort Jail, where he was imprisoned for more than 2 years during the freedom struggle. While addressing the event, Prime Minister Modi described Odisha as a land of diverse culture and history.
ओडिशा तो हमारी सांस्कृतिक विविधता का एक संपूर्ण चित्र, कंप्लीट पिक्चर है। यहाँ की कला, यहाँ का अध्यात्म, यहाँ की आदिवासी संस्कृति पूरे देश की धरोहर है। पूरे देश को इससे परिचित होना चाहिए, जुड़ना चाहिए और नई पीढ़ी को पता होना चाहिए। हम उड़ीसा इतिहास को जितना गहराई से समझेंगे, दुनिया के सामने लाएंगे, मानवता को समझने का उतना ही व्यापक दृष्टिकोण हमें मिलेगा।
And Prime Minister remembered Dr. Hare Krishna Mahatab, who was a notable figure in the Indian independence movement and was the first Chief Minister of Odisha in independent India.
ओडिशा का व्यापक और विविधताओं से भरा इतिहास देश के लोगों तक पहुंचे, यह बहुत आवश्यक है। गांधी जी ने जब नमक सत्याग्रह के लिए दांडी यात्रा शुरू की थी, तो ओडिशा में हरे कृष्ण जी ने इस आंदोलन को नेतृत्व दिया था। महताब जी ने आजादी की लड़ाई में अपना जीवन समर्पित किया, अपनी जवानी खपा दी। उन्होंने जेल की जिंदगी काटी, लेकिन महत्वपूर्ण ये रहा कि आजादी की लड़ाई के साथ साथ वो समाज के लिए भी लड़े।
44 seats of 5 districts in West Bengal will go for polls in the fourth phase of assembly elections in the state. Campaigning for the fourth phase ended on Thursday evening. Prominent leaders of all political parties were on their toes for the last-minute campaigning and in support of their candidates. And in fact, the Election Commission has issued a notice to BJP's Sovendu Adhikari and also to Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee for some objectionable speeches that they made. And it's now time for update to know what's happening, update from the world of business. And my colleague Tanvi Taneja joins us with more on that. Tanvi, tell us what's making news in the world of business.
Yes, Amrit, we are going to start our Business Prime segment today with the provisional direct tax collections for the financial year 2020-21, which show a growth of almost 5% at 9.45 lakh crore rupees. The net direct tax collections represent 104.5% of the revised estimates of 9.05 lakh crore rupees of the direct taxes for the financial year 2020-21. These collections have shown an upswing despite the inherent challenges confronting the economy due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite an extremely challenging year, advance tax collections
we have been able to garner a collection, net collection of 9,45,000 crores, which is not only we have met the revised estimates, but we have exceeded the revised estimates by a small margin of about 5%. Traditionally, Bombay has been the major center and it has continued to give the major contribution to the overall direct tax collection. Advanced tax collections have also shown a good growth. It is roughly about 6.7% over last year. Primarily because of the revival of the economic activity in the country. So far as refunds are concerned, I am happy to share that this year we have rolled out a new processing version whereby people do acknowledge that in a very, very short time from the time of their filing of returns, refunds have been issued to them, and it is directly credited to their bank accounts.
Despite an extremely challenging year, advance tax collections for financial year 2020-21 stand at 4.95 lakh crore rupees, which is a growth of about 6.7%. This is in line with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of honouring honest taxation in the country. Further, CBDT Chairman PC Modi also hailed the honest taxpayers.
The theme with which we are working has been enunciated by the Honourable Prime Minister, that honouring the honest and transparent taxation. I think all the steps which we have taken while reforming the processes and the procedure of the direct taxes are linked to this basic theme. Once we are doing it, everything electronically and in a faceless manner, it should inspire that confidence in the taxpayers that their matters will be attended to as soon as possible. I would only thank the taxpayers that despite difficult times, they have risen to the occasion and discharged their tax obligations. And now with more and more facilities being available to them, I am sure that they would continue to do that, and they would kind of register themselves on the e-filing portal so that the communication becomes better and easier between the department and the taxpayers.
The CBDT chairman thanking the honest taxpayers there. Meanwhile, refunds amounting to 2.61 lakh crore rupees were issued in the financial year 2020-21. Next, shifting our attention to the domestic stock markets. The domestic stock markets initially fluctuated between gains and losses in morning deals, but later lost more ground in afternoon trade. So the Sensex at the BSE had declined 249 points, 0.5% to 49,497 a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had lost 64 points, 0.4% to 14,810. In the broader market, while the BSE Mid-Cap Index had fallen 0.3%, the Small Cap Index had gained 0.4%. The top index gainers were Sun Pharma, Cipla, Titan and HUL with gains of between 1.8% and 5%, while the top index losers were Bajaj Finance, Tata Steel, UPL and Hindalco with losses of between 2.5% and 3%. At the Forex market, the rupee had depreciated 22 paise to 74 rupees 80 paise against the dollar. And at the multi-commodity exchange, gold had weakened 153 rupees to 46,685 rupees per 10 grams. Silver had lost 693 rupees to 68,808 rupees per kilo. Next, global crude oil prices edged down today as investors weighed rising supplies from major producers and the impact on fuel demand from the COVID-19 pandemic. So the Brent crude fell 12 cents or 0.2% to $63.08 a barrel. US crude fell just 1 cent to $59.59 a barrel. Both Brent crude and US crude are on track to post a 2% drop this week, after the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies agreed to gradually increase supplies by 2 million barrels per day between May and July. So we will have to see how that shapes up in the global crude oil markets. That's it for now in Business Prime. Over to you, Amrit.
Well, thank you, Tanvi, for that. And now let's take a look at what's making news across the globe. The U.S. State Department on Thursday played down expectations for talks on how Washington and Tehran might resume compliance with the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. State Department spokesman Ned Price said the U.S. envoy was likely to return home as the talks break for the weekend. Diplomats from major powers have met separately with Iran and the United States to discuss how to bring both back into compliance with the 2015 deal that Washington had abandoned 3 years ago. And U.S. State Department on Thursday said that the Good Friday Accord protecting peace in Northern Ireland should not become a casualty of Brexit. The statement comes after more than a week of nightly violence, partly fueled by frustration among pro-British unionists over post-Brexit trade barriers. Violence first broke out last week amid rising tensions relating to Brexit and anger over a decision by the police not to prosecute leaders of the Irish Nationalist Party for allegedly breaking COVID restrictions during the funeral of a former leading IRA figure. Let's now take a look at the updates on COVID-19 from across the world. Over 13 crore 45 lakh people worldwide have been tested positive so far for COVID-19, while more than 10 crore 83 lakh have recovered from the virus. The deadly virus has so far claimed more than 29 lakh 15,000 lives globally. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by the COVID-19 pandemic. More than 3 crore 17 lakh people have tested positive for the virus in the United States so far. Over 5 lakh 73,000 people have died of COVID-19 in the United States. And Brazil is close on heels. It on Thursday set a daily record of 4,249 COVID-19 deaths. With cases increasing unabatedly in the country, President Jair Bolsonaro called for a middle ground to be reached on the imposition of lockdown in Brazil. During his weekly streaming address, Bolsonaro softened his tone on measures to combat the lockdown and called the country's pandemic situation very complicated. Brazil has reported more than 1 crore 32 lakh 86,000 cases of COVID-19 so far. AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine woes continue as more countries announced to limit the use of vaccine shots. While Spain and Italy had already restricted the use of AstraZeneca to people aged over 60, joining them, Australia and Philippines have now limited the use of AstraZeneca. African Union dropped plans to buy the shot, dealing further blows to the company's hope to deliver a vaccine for the world. However, Philippines also suspended the use of AstraZeneca shots for people below 60, reporting blood clot cases among adult recipients. Meanwhile, Australia recommended that those under 50 will get the Pfizer candidate in preference to AstraZeneca's. The African Union says it's now exploring options, with Johnson & Johnson having dropped plans to buy AstraZeneca's vaccine. AstraZeneca's vaccine is by far the cheapest and the most high volume launched so far, with no extreme refrigeration requirements. But more than a dozen countries have recently suspended the partial use of the shot, citing health concerns. Meanwhile, Portugal and Netherlands will also limit the use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine to people above the age of 60 following rare cases of blood clots. The Dutch government's decision comes a day after Europe's medicine regulators statement on AstraZeneca's vaccines, possible link with blood clot cases. The Netherlands, which has ordered 12 million AstraZeneca doses, is among several countries to restrict the vaccine's use in recent days following concerns about side effects. However, the EU health ministers failed to agree common guidance on the use of AstraZeneca's vaccine, despite calls for coordination across member states to combat any public hesitancy over taking the shot. And it's time for the stories from the world of sports. And my colleague Ashok Tolia joins me for more on that. Ashok, tell us what's making news in the world of sports.
Well, thanks, Amrit. Let's start Sports Prime with positive news. The Indian contingent will have 4 sailors competing in Tokyo later this year for the first time in Olympic history, after Vishnu Sarvanan, Ganpati Chengappa and Varun Thakkar joined Netra Kumanan in qualifying the Tokyo Olympic. Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju congratulated the Indian sailors after they made cut for the showpiece event, which is scheduled to take place from July 23. Netra is trained dancer, singer and proficient painter as well. After spending more than a year without a competition, the Indian weightlifters are ready to test themselves in Asian Championships to be held in Uzbekistan from April 16 to 25. The Pattaya World Championships in September 2019 was the last international outing for the Indians. The National Championships in Kolkata in February 2020 was the last competition for them before the pandemic disrupted the calendar. With the Olympics around the corner, the primary target for the Indians to secure quota places in the Tokyo Games. For the first time, Brazilians representing their country at the Olympics will undergo anti-racism training in a bid to deal with a deep-rooted problem that has sometimes stained the world of sports. The Brazilian Olympic Committee launched the 30-hour online courses this week, which will be mandatory for all 650 athletes, coaches, doctors, officials, and other members of the country's delegation to the Tokyo Games. While Swansea City and Birmingham Football Club had earlier announced that their players will boycott social media over racist abuse sent on platform, Rangers Football Club joined in the cause to become the first club in Scotland to boycott social media in response to online abuse and discrimination. So that's all in Sports Prime. Namaskar.
Well, thank you, Ashok, for that. And with that, we come to the end of Midday Prime. Thanks very much for watching. Tune in at the same time from Monday to Friday. Thanks for watching. And also, yes, remember to wear a mask. I will go out of this sanitized studio and wear one. But when you go out, remember to wear the mask. That's very, very important if we want to defeat this pandemic. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.